Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for all participants of UNS Fintech Summer Course 2020. Welcome in the fourth day of course. Today we will have three modules that will be presented by four speakers. The first module, this morning we will discuss about the how to pursue career in fintech. That will be presented by our beautiful speakers, Miss Clarissa Alvina Gunawan. Hello, Miss Clarissa.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Okay, thank you for joining us today, Miss Clarissa Alvina Gunawan. And then the second module, the personal financial planning, will be presented by Dr. Silviana Maya Damayanti and Dr. Dwi Wulandari. And third module, Fintech Startup and Venture Capital, will be presented by Mr. Marcus Liman Raharja. So before we start our morning session, I will read several instructions for you, just like previous session. For participant, please turn on your video and then please reset your Zoom name, Zoom username to student ID and your name so that it will provide easier means for us to recognize you and to help you in case you have some difficulties during the session. And then during today's session, you can submit your questions to Zoom chat box or through raise hand features. And then lastly, the attendance list will be open after I inform you that it is open. Okay, so let's start our morning session. I will introduce our beautiful speaker today, Miss Clarissa Alvina Gunawan, currently work in Alpha GYC Venture as value creator through employer branding, key hiring, leadership development, and organizational development. She also worked at Robert and Walters as talent acquisition for prominent startup in fintech, and also in a Singapore-based talent acquisition firm at Clint, Indonesia. She hold a bachelor degree in management, especially in human resource management from Universitas 11 Maret, and she also part of our team previously before she start her professional career in the human resource management. So without further ado, Miss Clarissa Gunawan, time is yours.
Okay, thank you for the kind introduction, Mbak Alifa, and I would like also to extend my gratitude to the entire team of FinTech and Internationalization team of UNS. I think it's such an honor for me to be here, and I would like also to extend my greetings for all participants in the session this morning. I wish everyone is in a health and good situation, regardless the hard timing that happened due to the global pandemic. Nevertheless, it's always good to connect with, I think, with people in the rest of the world, and it's always good time to learn. And I hope everyone will get something from the session this morning. So I think previously when I preparing this session, I asked to the committee team, right, in terms of the demographic of the participant. Are you guys students in the final year, or maybe you are students in the first, second year? So despite whatever the motivation of you joining the session this morning, maybe you are new to fintech because you heard about it and you want to understand more, or even you maybe you already familiar with what fintech is and you intentionally want to develop your knowledge in fintech. Again, I hope everyone will get something from the session this morning. Hope the session will be insightful and further expand, particularly for your career preparation. So let me start sharing my screen. Okay, I wish everyone could see it now. And by the way, let me start with the introduction from myself as well. So as mentioned, that I graduated from the University of 11 Maret. So me, myself, I was a fresh graduate back 2.5 years ago. I had a beautiful time with the university that I love so much. And during the early days of my graduation, when I was a fresh graduate, I think I was in the time whereby as a fresh grad, I didn't know much what kind of opportunity that available for me as a fresh grad out there. I used to look up to a lot of alumni and people who already started their career and wondering um, how can I achieve that career path where I would say that at that time I didn't have much confidence as a graduate, right? I knew that the competition in the job market is tough, and at the same time I might be limited, right? So I'm thinking about what can I do, and thankfully that I make my way to start my career as a talent acquisition at one of startup in Jakarta. So my first role was a talent acquisition, and for some of you who study human resources management, you might be familiar with what is it, a recruitment process in a company, right? So basically, as a talent acquisition, I got the chance to grow the company. Back then, when I joined, it was a company of 23 people. And then when I left, they already grew into 100 people in the headcounts. And I really grateful for the chance to hire people for that company, especially during my time interviewing a lot of applicants, a lot of most of them are also fresh graduates. That's the moment I really learned a lot about the perspective of fresh graduate, and why is it challenging for us back then to manage the transition into professional work, because in fact there are a lot of information that maybe are not distributed equally. uh, there are a lot of gap in terms of understanding on what is the necessary skill to demonstrate during the interview. I'm really happy to share some of my perspective as a recruiter today that I hope in a way it can help everyone who joined the session this morning. And then the next step of my career, as mentioned, I joined. That was my first time, I think, joining a global or a multinational company, which is a recruitment consulting. People may be more familiar with what it called as a headhunter. So as a headhunter, we work or we recruit for our company clients, and just to make it make sense or to put context, why a company that have a human resource team have to use the service from headhunter to hire people. And the simplest answer would be because some talent are just some position are just challenging to be fulfilled by the internal HR team, that they need specific expertise from the external party to be able on board that particular talent for the company. It's normally for a leadership position, and that's the moment I started to build my confidence as well, and talking to more senior talent, senior candidates, because to be able responding them, I have to understand what are their works, what are their responsibility, what does it mean to be in their position, and how I can pursue them to explore another job opportunity, which is from my client. So working in a venture capital. So for some of you who might be know about venture capital or who might be new about it, in a simple way, venture capital is actually an investor. As we know that the emerging digital industry has born a lot of new companies called startup, mostly in capital city or in the big cities. But for those startups to be able to running the business, they need capital, right? So they need financial capital, and that's whereby actually the role of venture capital is to fund them to support the funding or to capitalize the business by putting certain amount of money for those startups to be able executing whatever their great ideas are. And of course, venture capital firms put money for a prospective return in the long term, but we understand that return or profitability of startup, it is not like in a 1 year or in some months, but it is a very long-term game. So, and especially in my role as a value creation, what does it mean? In short, as a venture capital, we put money on our portfolio company, right? So we call our investment is a portfolio company. But then we do not just let them to grow or to manage the business by their own, right? We want to help them solving their problem. We want to help them grow their customer. We want to help them deliver the product to their market. And even we want to help them facing the competition when there are a similar business in the industry. So as a value creation, my role is to help the founders first and foremost is to onboard talent that the organization would need. If you are familiar with in Solo, there's a coffee chain named Kopi Kenangan. That's actually one of our portfolio company as well. So you can imagine a founder creating a very big company of coffee retail chain, and the founder might need to be advised what kind of talent that they should have to be able running this new business, right? Because they are facing competition with not really competition because it's different market if I say it's Starbucks, but in short, it's a new business, right? It's a new hype. People or market are also trying to respond to what is offered by the company in the market. So in short, talking to talent are my everyday activity, whether they will be a fit or not for our portfolio organization. And also, I love the fact that digital industry are just very amazing in terms of helping me to develop my work ethics, and foremost is a problem solving disclaimer that my session this morning, I think it will be a bit different with the majority of the instructor that you have met days before. So I'm trying to put the sharing session today as practical as possible, as general as possible to be all the participants, right? I'm trying to make it practical. So it's really about after knowing this and that, what you can do with that. And I hope that that can become a really actionable step for you to pursue your career or not, and also how to prepare if apparently you are interested. So it's less textbook, it's less theoretical, and it will be short. And honestly, it's quite challenging for me to keep talking the next 90 minutes, because as I mentioned, what I'm doing every day is just sitting, asking people questions, and also asking them about what are they doing, how much they are getting paid for that. And I let people to tell story for me, right? But today I have to tell my story to you guys. So that would be nice if you prepare questions, or there will be something you are keen to understand more. Please feel free to put the question in the chat box. I would very appreciate it. Okay, so let's get started. First and foremost, okay, hold on a second. Why I cannot? Okay, sorry. Let me change my slide a bit. Sorry for the committee can help me to enable my screen sharing. Hello. Yeah, thank you. Okay. So I think there was a problem with my previous screen, but let us start with this, right? So first and foremost, let's start with why are we learning this module, right? Why would it be make sense for you to learn about this new industry? I love to start with this hypothesis. Sorry. Sorry, I think the incoming participant is keep asking for permission. Can someone help to stop? Yeah. Okay. So again, talking about the phenomenon of fresh grad, right? We understand that this is basically the timeline where as our next milestone, which is from a student when you complete your thesis and everything, and then you will soon become a fresh grad, or maybe if you are now a fresh grad, some of you who decided not to pursue higher education, or let's say not to pursue entrepreneurial path, you maybe want to go to a professional world, which is becoming an employee, right? So we call it as a first jobber. And then after becoming a first jobber, the next is history, meaning that you can define your own path to become a professional expert in whatever the industry that you want to pursue later, in whatever the vertical of expertise you are. Are you coming from management, accounting? Are you marketing? Are you maybe coming from engineering, from agriculture? It can be anything. So professional expert, meaning that you are expert in a specific vertical, and you are making, basically you are creating, you are producing insight, you are creating strategy out of your technical expert. Okay, but the line is different from becoming student into fresh grad versus becoming fresh grad into first jobber. There is no such exact formula of how to secure your first job, right? From student to fresh grad, we know what does it take. It takes you to complete your thesis. It takes you to complete your credits, and by the clear time frame, you can soon become a bachelor of something. But from that time of your graduation to become a first jobber, I can say it's a really self-driven process. What does it mean by self-driven process? It's a process that really defined or determined by your own capability to manage that transition time. So it really relying on your proactiveness, on your self-driving, and although there are a lot of external factors, it's pretty much yourself that navigate that process to get to that first job, right? But the question is, if securing first job is challenging, and the fact that the global pandemic has made it even more competitive, which means that maybe you have heard about layoff that happen here and there, especially in Jakarta, and about the restructure of company. Many company cannot survive. It just create a very huge talent supply in the market today, whereby the job opportunity is probably less than the availability of the talent itself. So the fact that global pandemic happened make it more competitive, but I would say it doesn't make it impossible. So there is still a way of how fresh graduate can land themselves into job. So the question is how, right? But it down into two big pictures. The first is about understanding the demand of the job market itself. I remember the days back then, I was a Bachelor of Management, and my specialization was in human resources, but I applied to really random job when I graduated, because I was thinking the ultimate goal is to just get a job, whatever is that. But then I realized that that was not the right mindset, because after interviewing a lot of people, I learned that first job really decided what opportunity you could have next in managing your career path. So as I shared that I did a talent acquisition at my first career, and then next I'm doing recruitment consultant. It maybe doesn't make sense for me to pursue marketing after becoming talent acquisition, right? It's possible, yes, but the gap between the skills and the experience is just too big. So first job, in fact, it's very important for us to navigate the next or the rest of our career. And then and I think that what most of the time we are missing, because we learn a lot during our days in uni. We study about a lot of theory and some projects, but then in terms of what is actually demanded by the job market, we might not have much information. And then second point, after understanding the particular industry that you want to pursue, what are the necessary skill to get there. Second is to working on a strategic actionable plan. What does it mean, strategic actionable plan? It's something that doable or manageable for you, but on a strategic approach. So let's say you apply 100 jobs, but then you got no response, and you just keep applying for next 50 or 20 jobs, and you do not change the way for you to apply that job. You didn't take a look on what's wrong, on what could be improved. I believe if we do a more strategic approach, it will make difference. For example, we ask a friend who already work in a company that we want to apply. We ask how is it to work there, what kind of talent characteristic that the company are looking for, and then basically we make use of our network in a positive way to get information for people that already experience working in a certain company, or even we take a look on a lot of sources of information, like let's say LinkedIn, the company career page, to learn about them. So a lot of ways can do. But what I also want to emphasize is that years ago, applying for jobs is a straightforward. We have a lot of options like MT program, but today's in the digital industry, like e-commerce, like fintech, does it apply the same way? Do they also have like what our counterparts in FMCG call as an MT program? Maybe no, right? So that's the reason why we need to keep adapting, right? So this is the point from becoming a fresh grad into securing your first job. That's the line that I wish we can learn how to manage on that today. And then I want to hear some words from you guys, but I know that probably it's a bit challenging to let 100 people plus talking each of their words. So I'm going to share this link survey, or I think the committee has helped me to share this as well. Please access to that link. I know you've been using this before. There are two questions there. The first is that I want to hear from you. What did you hear about the available opportunities in a fintech? So if you have heard from the previous 3 days about how cool or how innovative fintech is, but if you can translate it, or if you can imagine what does it translate into role, into function, what would that be? And the second one is that tell us or tell your friends here about one company name. So eventually we can generate a lot of companies' name in fintech, and that will tell you how big the opportunity in fintech industry is. So let me stop sharing my screen a bit and switch to the survey side. Okay, for everyone who have access the link, you can actually start answering the question. I put a time there, so better to better to take your time, quickly answer. Yeah, I saw legal there, a data analyst, which is great. data science, marketing director, compliance, data scientist, market researcher. Try to mention what your friends haven't mentioned yet. It's less than 10 seconds now. We still have 5 more seconds to go. Okay. Okay. Time's up. I'm trying to share this now. Okay. Yeah. Okay, guys. Thank you for sharing your answer. I saw a lot of legal answer there. You might hear about maybe the previous day cover about legalities in fintech, was it? And then data analytics, programmer, management risk, data scientist, cost. Okay, okay, right. So we go to the next question. 1 second. We go to the next question, which I give you more time. Okay. Can you now start answering the second question? Oh, sorry, 1 second. Okay. Gojek, OVO, GoPay, Kredivo, Modalku, Credit Plus, Tanihub, Genius, Link Aja, Aku Laku, Investri. Oh, you guys are awesome. Coinworks. Cicil. JP Morgan. Is it a fintech? Okay. Alipay. Oh, for you guys who are currently resides out of Indonesia, also please feel free to tell us what are fintech companies access in your country. Okay, I'm sharing the link to you guys. Okay. Please don't type OVO GoPay anymore. It's been there. Mm-hmm. Okay. Less than 30 seconds now. Tix ID, are they fintech? I thought they are selling tickets, right? For movie. Amarta, nice. Okay. Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. So you can see there are a lot of fintech companies that you already know. And I hope I can bring some introduction to you to a new companies in a more structured ways. If we can categorize them based on their business model, because if you see what displayed here are mostly the consumer facing company, so meaning that types of fintech organization that we see and we use in our day-to-day life, right? But actually if you are and you better to know more as well. Okay, we'll now switch to back again to the slides. Okay, so in short, this is just my presentation will consist only on four aspects. It's a straightforward. Let's do a bit of industry tour and also organization tour in terms of who are the players in the industry, and then what they are doing, some of the talent characteristics that I have met from that company, and then let's learn about what the function that exists in the company and for what objective is that, why that function does exist, and eventually if you want to pursue that role, how you can prepare for it. And then we'll end it with Q&A session. I think I will leave 20 to 30 minutes for the Q&A session. Okay, so types of fintech organization, if we can actually categorize it based on the stakeholder, right? So you mentioned about OVO, GoPay, Dana, Kredivo, and etc. etc. They are all consumer facing, which means that the focus is serving on individual or retail consumer, which is us. So it's a consumer oriented organization, and what they do is actually they develop, not only develop, but they also deliver to the consumer an automated use of financial services for us to help us solving our daily life activities, be it payment, be it loan. It can be also for investment purpose. It can be also for let's say insurance, for us to buy other financial product in the financial market. So most of the time that's what we see in our everyday, right? But the other side or the other spectrum of the industry that oftentimes we didn't see or we are not aware of, there are a lot of client-facing or B2B fintech players, which is in terms of the business scale, they are playing a huge scale of the business. And if we can put it into definition, they are a client focused. So meaning that their business or their product is designed to serve other enterprise. It can be a big enterprise, it can be SME, but it's not for individual user like us. So they deliver also an automated service of financial usage, but the emphasis is on the scalable solution. What does it mean by scalable? So you can imagine, everyone here can imagine if you purchase a product at Tokopedia and you proceed to the payment page, oh, by the way, Tokopedia is an e-commerce from Indonesia. For everyone who are not coming from Indonesia, you will be offered bank transfer. You can pay it directly from your OVO if it's integrated to your OVO account, and then you can also, using your credit card, you can also maybe paying from the nearest convenience store like Alfamart or Indomart. Could you imagine how Tokopedia collect their consumer money from all those different channels? So meaning that Tokopedia have their consumer money in a bank account, which is there are PCA, Mandiri, PNI, and everything. They also have their consumer money in convenience store, which is doing the offline payment, and they probably have some money that are collected directly into their bank account, which is through OVO. So apparently there are some fintech company that doing business by providing the system or the infrastructure for a commerce business like Tokopedia to be able collecting their consumer money across all channels. So meaning that Tokopedia not doing that money collection by their own, but there is a platform that managing the integration of the system between Tokopedia backbone or the back end to, let's say, a virtual account of a banking. Because to be able collecting their money, they have to, they need to establish a connected backend system, right? And that is actually enabled by also a fintech company that we call with a payment gateway. So that's the definition of payment gateway. And then invoice financing, what is that? We will learn that as well as one of the purpose or type of loan. So it's a straightforward. And then yeah, so I hope this slide is pretty much straightforward. It's just to let you guys know how big are actually the opportunities or business of a B2B that oftentimes we miss just because they are not so much appeal in the market. And obviously they are not doing a marketing campaign like those guy in OVO, in GoPay, and the rest, right? Because their business is just not focusing on customer like us, but surfing more on the client. So the growth of the business is pretty much defined by how many clients they can acquire, how many projects they could serve, how big is the scale of the project. For example, serving 100 companies with a scale of, let's say, 100 transaction per day versus acquiring a client like Tokopedia that maybe have million transaction a day. That creates different in the business performance, right? So if we can put it into a picture and how the relationship nature works between one entity and the other entity, it tells us that actually all the fintech institution, they are
Larissa,
operate. Yeah.
Larissa, sorry, we cannot see your slides. I think you haven't changed your screen. We still see
Okay.
the result of the.
1 second. Sorry. Oh, did you guys see here before? No. Okay. Okay. This is what I'm talking about all this time, guys. So I thought we are on the screen. So just in case you want to go quickly, go through quickly what I mentioned or take a note on this. Yeah, this is basically how we can organize based fintech based on the stakeholder that they are serving. So let me give you some seconds for you who want to take note on this or screen capture it. Okay, and then if everyone is good, we'll get here. Okay, yeah. So as I mentioned, all the fintech organizations operate in a very highly interdependent ecosystem. What does it mean? So meaning that the successful of one fintech organization really depends on how the interaction is with the other fintech institution, which they have multiple stakeholders, including the government as the regulatory and also the consumer that will determine their business performance. How successful their product are in the market depends on us as a consumer. But you can imagine, so during the early days of this payment business, people are wondering, is it safe for me to put my money on what is it called e-wallet? And then when a lot of lending companies appear in the market, people are wondering how it can be so easy to get a loan um, from a company or from an institution who, let's say, who are not my relatives, who doesn't know about my credibility. So it really, I would say during the early days of fintech coming into this industry, it takes them a really huge effort of doing market education for them to be able introducing what their product is and how their product could help in consumer daily life. While the B2B business, because the nature of their product is by nature needed by other company, right? So for example, like a company like Tokopedia, they operate and they have partnership with bankings, they have partnership with convenience store, and they just need other parties to managing on the infrastructure. It's, I would say it's easier for a B2B fintech to managing their products get to the hand of the consumer or client. So in the relationship line, fintech, B2C fintech serving retail customer, which is us, but they themselves are also served by a B2B fintech, which is not only serving another fintech institution, but also serving themselves. So we might see a lot of what we call in Indonesia as UMKM, and then a lot of small business that require capital. They are proposing loan from B2B fintech for them to be able serving retail consumer, which is us, right? So that just reflect how a very highly dependent they are between each other, and overall how far as a business they could serve the consumer. It's really depend on how regulation, how the policy or the environment that government provide for them to support the business. So maybe you already have session with the representative from Indonesian Financial Authority or from Bank of Indonesia, and I believe it also takes them some time to be able seeing the benefit of fostering fintech as a business in this industry, to be able for them developing some policy or regulation that enable business to continue their activities, while it's also government responsibility to protect us as the people, to ensure that whatever the financial activities that we have with this business, it's secure and it doesn't do any harm for us. So that's it, right? And then now we go to fintech organization category based on the business model. You might see what you have mentioned in the slides in the survey before, right? The easiest one is always the e-wallet, but for you guys who are interested to be to pursue a marketing role, if I can share you some of the business case, right? So last time there was one of student from UNS as well, from UNS Universitas 11 Maret. So he was my junior back then, and then he asked me about I got an internship opportunity to do as a marketing intern at Dana. Should I take it? While in the meantime, I'm still working on my thesis. And then I will not give you recommendation yes or no, because it depends on how big capacity that you have. But what I can share you is that what are the possible experience that you will have with them. So imagine as a marketing of Dana, you came as a player into the industry when GoPay and OVO already have their consumer base and market share, right? So I'm not saying it's late, I'm just saying it's more challenging for the marketing team to be able putting their brands out there and to convince people to use them when consumer maybe already have two different applications in their mobile phone, which is OVO. What is it? Why do I have to download it? And why for the same transaction, for the same amount, I have to use a different e-wallet, right? So it maybe reflect the competition in an e-wallet, but lucky us in Indonesia, we do not have many players. We have some that really dominating the market, right? And in case you are wondering, okay, why Shopee Pay also create their own e-wallet? Are they just following the trend? Definitely no, because every features or every products that developed by a company, that's followed by a business thesis and validation of the problem. So the reason why they developed Shopee Pay is that for you who are the users of Shopee, you might realize that sometimes we got a free delivery cost, what we call as an ongkir, if we use if we decide to choose the payment using Shopee Pay, right? And that's just the common logic on how they can increase the transaction in their platform, while at the same time they can also have more control on their consumer data, because when they have to implement external system for their payment channel, for example, transfer or anything, there is a certain percentage of what we call as a tech rate that they have to share as a profit sharing with the external party, right? So a big giant like Shopee, when they are ready, they will eventually develop their own payment system. So in short, e-wallet, we know it by definition as electronic service, which enable us to securely doing online transaction, meaning it's either to receive money or to send money, right? If we are a merchant, then it's to receive money from our consumer. But if we are a buyer, and then it's for us to send the money. Okay, that's about e-wallet, right? So it's a very interesting how the cashless behavior is, I would say, is now fostered by the government across the region, starting from Jakarta also to the rest of the region in Java and also out of Java. I'm not sure how is it in other country, but I know that this cashless society have been there very much earlier, especially in India and China. So that's also explained for anyone who mentioned engineer or programmer on the survey earlier. That explain why a lot of engineer or a lot of programmer for this e-wallet company how to build the system to make it secure, to make it reliable, and just you can imagine, right? Let's say the first year of OVO business, they could possibly have 1,000 consumer doing transaction at the same time. Me, I'm paying my lunch here while you probably purchasing something at Tokopedia. So we are transacting at the same time, right? And then months later, after some marketing campaign, they grow the user into let's say 5,000 transaction at the same time, and then it grows twice into 10,000 transaction at once or at the same time. And definitely that requires a different capacity on the technology, because otherwise you might often find that the application got crashed, or suddenly your credit or your balance it's already deducted, but the transaction haven't finalized, and so many errors, right? So that also what trigger the high demand in tech talents in Indonesia. And then peer-to-peer lending. In short, it's a practice of money disbursement or money distribution to individual or business. So it can be a personal loan, it can be a productive loan for business through online platform that play the role as intermediary to match the lenders and the borrower. While the intermediary role in the early days are played by banking, right? So if we call them as a fintech, which part of the tech is, right? Because loan or debt is not a new product. We find it before in banking, but what makes them called as a fintech is that the process of them, the first is the process of them doing that what we call as a credit scoring or credit analysis, and the process of them to collect the money, which is done from online platform, whereby what bank do is collect the money from their consumer, right, which is our saving, and then the process of them dispersing the money, which is also online. So if you notice years back, there is a role in bank what is called by credit analyst. So maybe for once you see your parents proposing a loan to do installment for a house, or maybe for a car, what we call as a KPR, or credit kepemilikan rumah, right? And then you will saw someone from banking coming in to your house to do a site survey, and then collect a lot of information about the monthly income, about how many dependents in the family, and they do the analysis of the potential risk if bank eventually give the loan to us, right? Which is the borrower. But the technology that process that eventually through artificial intelligence, there is an algorithm-based system that can generate a recommendation score or risk profiling from each of the consumer that register in the platform through the data that they input, be it income data, demographic, and then the job, the let's say the location, the purpose of the loan itself. So what all the tech guys do in P2P lending is to create this automation of a credit scoring that can generate the risk profiling of their consumer. That's one. And then second is that if for you who already do investment, maybe you ever use CoinWorks or maybe you ever use Tani Fund, you will see a certain percentage of return that is offered to you, right? For example, you want to invest your money for a project A or for a project B. This is medium risk, this is high risk. This will bring you estimately of 12% return in a 12 months, and this one is a 10% return. So all those numbers are generated by the technology. But if we take a look on a broader scope, not all the lending are targeting the same segment. So we can categorize them into the productive loan and the consumer consumptive loan. And I would say consumptive loan is pretty much more risky because we are borrowing money for maybe for us to pay our debt or maybe for us to be able surviving our day-to-day life, but it didn't bring money in return, right? While productive loan, the borrower eventually managed the money to bring some revenue, and at the end will be able to pay back the loan with certain return that has been agreed. And on the other side, years ago also come in some education loan, which I saw someone mention earlier about Dana Didik, about Cicil, about Dana Cita, that specifically targeted to support the education access in Indonesia. So I spoke as well to some of the team in Cicil. Apparently they have, for example, like 2 types, right? So it's not only to fund your tuition fee, but also to, let's say if you want to register for a course, or if you want to buy books or any academic attributes, and then you can also apply loan to Cicil. But if you imagine this kind of business, it's quite risky because they lend the money to student, which is relatively not producing income yet, right? We know that students from the legal perspective, they are still supported by the parents, even though some of them maybe you do a part-time job, a freelance or everything, right? But then still the risk is there. Hence why they do partnership with the university. So the money that they lend to the borrower eventually will be distributed directly to the university. And that's also an example of one of role that exists in this kind of lending business. While for them who did a productive loan for SME, definitely acquiring SME that willing to apply loan or who needs loan, it's also the main growth driver for the business. Because in a big picture, the growth is about how many merchants or how many SMEs that you support, the value of your disbursement from time to time, and that what brings the company to the revenue, right? And then after some time, we might found not so many, but there start to be some players in the Sharia fintech. If you guys are familiar with what it's called Alami, they also one of pioneer in the Sharia fintech. So it's in overall, it's still about lending, but they adopt more Islamic approach, which is applying profit sharing model on the percentage of return that has been agreed upfront. So I talked to one of the HR team from Alami as well, right? What they do is actually what we call as invoice financing. So invoice financing, for example, imagine that you are a furniture entrepreneur, and then you got order for hundreds table for, let's say, a restaurant company in Jakarta. Let's say you are in Jember, and then you want to send that furniture. You need to pay a logistic cost of let's say 100 million to cover your logistic costs and the raw materials. But as an entrepreneur, you will only getting paid once your product is delivered to your clients, right? And then actually you are, as an entrepreneur, you issued invoice, right, which is a bill that your client will pay to you. And instead of the client paying to you directly, Alami can firstly pay that invoice for you on behalf of your client. So later on, your client will pay to Alami, but let's say in 3 months or in 6 months. So the value that they offer is actually more on the time where you can still allocate your resources, and then once you have the money, you can eventually pay your invoice. Or another example, the money from your client, you can also propose Alami to pay your billing to your logistic partner. And after you got money from your client, let's say in 3 months, in 6 months, you pay to Alami. So that's example of invoice financing, but the percentage itself of the profit sharing is agreed upfront, right? So maybe for some business that consider want to apply for a loan, but they are not in line with how the peer-to-peer lending managing their interest, you can consider for Sharia fintech, right? And then crowdfunding, it's straightforward. It's a platform where either us, individual or community, can raise and collect funds from contributors. We don't call it investor, because if we call them investor, they will get something in return, right? But contributors and donors, because eventually the money that collected, we will disperse it for a non-profit purpose, right? As we know what Kita Bisa has run, for example, it's for a COVID, for the medical frontliner, or maybe for the disaster, let's say ada banjir di Banten, and then you want to help the affected people there, and then we raise fund, right? And if you wonder how do this organization make money, they have a certain percentage of tax rate from the total donation that is collected. So, and the strategic thinking is required for you managing this kind of business, right? Let's say you are collecting 100 million of fund, and you got, let's say, 5% of it as the administration fee or charge, because you provide the platform for them to fundraise. How this 5% can actually cover the operation cost of the company. So that's also the beauty of fintech, because you are making money or making profit out of someone else's money. And then payment gateway, what I shared before, it's one of the P2P player. Some name here might be not so much familiar, but they just a great business. So Midtrans, which is part of Gojek company, Zendit, you can check on their website. They have cool people there. If you decide to consider, if you consider to explore with them. And then Altera and Doku. Someone mentioned Doku earlier, right? So they facilitate the payment infrastructure between commerce business, not only commerce, it can be any business actually, with the consumer, to be able collecting money in 2 ways, right? So for example, you want to pay to maybe you do shopping somewhere else, actually your money are firstly collected by this payment gateway before land to the e-commerce, right? And then what's also new recently, investment platform. I saw a lot of you mention about Bibit, and then if you know that aggregate a lot of investment option. It can be reksadana, it can be stocks, and then actually what they do is partnering with portfolio manager. So portfolio manager is actually sort of like a financial consultant from trusted financial institution, let's say banking or other securities company, to manage your asset, which is money, on behalf of you. So if we recently hear about what happened at Joska, right? That's also actually one of the business. What they do is financial advisory, as the next session that you will have today. So we put our money for investment, which is for a prospective financial return, and then after that, and then how that can bring us return is because that money is managed by a portfolio manager that is being used to capitalize other business. And then when that business resulting into profit, that's how us as an investor also could get a return. So that's why the portfolio manager role is very important here. That's investment platform. And what I love about investment platform is that recently it goes closer to a lot of millennials, to a lot of younger generation. If years ago investment is identical to only senior people, let's say our parents and the previous generation, because let's say deposito in a banking requires certain amount, but today using this platform you can invest even start from, let's say, 100,000. So the idea, which is also aligned with government, is how the existence of this investment platform can promote financial inclusion in Indonesia and also financial literacy, which means everyone can involve in financial activity. Everyone get more awareness on how important it is to manage their financial security moving forward. And I think the crisis that happened just justify us on how important it is for us, even as younger generation, to manage wisely on our financial resources. So yeah, and then last one, marketplace. If you check on their website, what they are doing, they collect a lot of financial services product, like you can apply for credit card, you can apply for housing loan, you can apply for other banking products or even insurance products. So they are aggregator, which what are the value or what are the business opportunity that they see. So you imagine if each of bank like BCA, Mandiri, PTPN, BNI, or BNI, right? They have to deliver or market their own product individually, separately, how big the competition is, right? But the existence of this platform, they aggregate the information whereby as a consumer, you have options. You can go, you want to propose a housing loan, how much will be the interest or how much will be the monthly installment. If you propose the loan program to, let's say, BRI versus BNI, right? And by then, it much more effective for you as a consumer, it much more beneficial and practical. So that's the idea. So eventually, those marketplace player, they generate leads for the other financial institution, which is banking and sometimes insurance company. For Futurity and Koala, they aggregate insurance product, right? So having said all of that, what does it mean? What does it mean for us, right? Meaning that if we see from consumer perspective, we have a lot of options today, right? Because whatever they do is to attract and capture our attention as a consumer. But because the topic today is about career, of course, we want to see it from a talent perspective, right? If eventually we want to pursue a career on that path, what does it mean? It means that the growing number of fintech players, which is quantity, and the acceptance of fintech products in the market, which is determined by our response, it reflects, or in consequences, it reflected to the growing opportunity as well. And when the opportunity grows, it reflected into the demand for talents. Because you imagine every time the business grow in a company, they need more capacity, or they develop new product, they need someone expert to help the product get on the hand of consumer. So everything that business do, whatever the goal or the direction that they want to pursue, actually in a way it will be translated into needs for talent or into hiring plan, right? What different is maybe the objective. For example, hiring for leadership because they already have some junior people in the team and they need someone more senior to be able managing the team. Or maybe hiring to add the headcount because the current team is already overloaded with the work capacity. So there are a lot of reasons for company to hiring, right? And that's the good news for us. And then if we go to the next slide, it's about translation. So after all the business that they do, if we want to translate it into talent needs, how we can see it in an easier structure. So it doesn't reflect, I mean, it doesn't reflect like generally in all companies, but if we can cluster it into three main domains, basically there are the technology team, the business team, and the operation team. Technology team, I believe that you have heard from the previous session about the security, about the this fintech organization has to follow, right? And what does it mean for the technology team? So basically they are people or a technical person mostly, but not all, that make use of technology, which is programming language, which is what we call as DevOps, what we call as artificial intelligence, IoT. They apply technical approach to design and develop roadmap. What does it mean? Design, they create the prototype, and develop is that they execute or they realize the prototype that they create. What prototype? It's a prototype that consists of a journey for us as a consumer on how we will be interacting with their product. So before, for example, before OVO launching their product, they might build a hypothesis. Why? Instead of having only e-wallet like GoPay, they also have the loyalty platform or the points. So we can top up our money, but we can also get some point as a rewards in each of transaction that we do. While GoPay, it's simple. It just e-wallet for us to top up our money, right? Even that different feature is something that the product and technology team has to think about how that will impact or affect the business and the consumer journey. So what kind of roles that access in this technology team? You can read there, product manager, and then UI UX designer, software engineer. Basically it's same with programmer, but it's more in a cool name. And then data engineer, QA engineer. Product manager, what they do. In some companies, there are different types of product manager. Sometimes they are coming from tech background because they have to understand how an application is built, is developed. Sometimes they are also coming from a business background because they have to, at the same time, possess a business acumen, whereby whatever the features that they develop, it has to contribute to the business, right? So product manager, in short, they create a roadmap, and then they got help from the UI UX designer, which is thinking on how the consumer experience or the user experience will be design in our product. They do research about the behavior of us. Even if today you already have it, if you open, let's say, Gojek application, you will find certain items which is already selected by the apps, right? Which is mainly GoRide or GoCar, and then GoFood, and then the other two items, and the rest is not displayed. Even that is designed for a reason, that the UI UX, why the pay button is on the right, why we have to scroll up and down instead of doing scrolling left or right. Even if you imagine like an Instagram, right? All the behavior is really observed or really learned by the UI UX designer. So for them to be able creating product that we call as a user friendly, that's what they do. And is there any possibilities for non-tech background that coming from non-tech education background to pursue this career? Definitely yes, because in fact, UI UX designer coming from a very various background. I saw a UX designer coming from communication, coming from a sociology, and then coming from anthropology as well. So, because it's about human behavior, right? But at the same time, you need also to have a creativity and human interaction sense. And then business team, it's also straightforward. So whatever the product and the tech team create, at the end, it has to be delivered to the customer, right? And who are in charge for that? In what way the product is delivered? That's the role of the business team is. So eventually they develop strategy, they develop the approach, and they develop the execution plan to deliver this product. So eventually consumer can get the value of our product, because as a company, we promise them, right? We promise them, if you apply loan on my company, and then you can use that loan conveniently, the process is fast, and then the interest is low, and blah, blah, blah. If you are investing on our platform, we are distributing your money to high profile SME that will bring you return as an investor, right? So all those are values that company promise to us as a user. But then how that can be delivered to build the trust, to build the user awareness that your product has access in the market, those are the responsibility of business team. And in general, there are several stages of startup, right? At the beginning, you might heard about startups burning a lot of money, because yes, in fact, the first stage of startup after developing their prototype is pretty much about getting what does it called by traction or traffic. So they want to test their product in the market and seeing how the level of responses is. And then, because it's a new product, right? If we ask them to make a forecast, they have no historical data, because the product that they want to offer is new, unless it's a product that already exists in the industry and we can do competitor benchmark. And then after that stage, okay, we already get traction from the market. We want this traction to grow, either the basic of the either our number of consumer or the value of transaction that our consumer do, whatever is that, right? If you imagine like OVO, GoPay, their growth metrics can be driven. It can be the number of users, it can be the repeat user, it can be the new user, it can be use case of the transaction. It might be not always for food and for their own services, which is GoRide or GoCar. It can be as well. We can now use GoPay maybe for buy your what is it, weapon in Mobile Legend, for example. So that's also the strategy from the business team to develop what is it called by use case. Use case meaning that in what occasion, in what context, us as a consumer, we will think or consider to use their product. And when is it a new business, when it is a new product, sometimes it's just challenging. It takes us time to understand about our consumer. So if you love to do this strategic role, if you are passionate about consumer, if you want to develop your problem solving skill, joining in a business team is really a great place to learn, because in fact, let's say you already develop a marketing plan, you develop a campaign, you think that your consumer will be attracted on that campaign. In fact, maybe no. In fact, maybe you get a low traffic, and then you will need to analyze, right? What's wrong? Why it doesn't work? Did I place my advertising on the wrong channel? Or did I targeted the wrong consumer? Or did I create a wrong message? So it's really about solving problem day to day, and it's an endless journey, right? And then the last part, the operations team, which why I put it on, I put it there because in an extensive box, because in fact that the operation role supporting both the technology and business, they are consist with other functions that do not do direct interaction with consumer or have nothing to do with the revenue generation, but their role is to enable the overall business operations from the other two team, which is from the legality aspect of the company, license of your product, and then human resources, which is consisting from the talent acquisition to onboard the talent, and then compensation and benefit, make sure that we create a interesting or motivating reward scheme for our employee. And then we have also training and development, because sometimes what people also pursue in a company is not always reward, it's not always money, but sometimes personal development that company need to facilitate, right? And then finance, once your business team successfully make revenue, how you will allocate that finance, right? You do investment, you maybe create another product, or you want to focus on your product, on one product, and growing it by expanding to the other region. So even in a finance team, it's also takes a strategic thinking, definitely, but a strong sense in a number, because it's all about the ratio, what your decision will impact the business, right? So governance and compliance, as you know, that the regulation is not fixed yet, it's still evolving from time to time, and hence why all those fintech players will need to keep comply with whatever the new regulation is. So they just makes sense for them to have dedicated function that will be in charge to following the updates on whatever the new regulation is that issued by the authority, and then help it to translate, because your CEO may be not a legal person, because your business team maybe doesn't understand all the legal languages, right? So that to make it make sense. And then investor relation, because we know that all the startup business, like what we have mentioned earlier, they are backed up by investor. So to be able to creating prototype at the beginning, developing their products, and even hiring the person to create that product, it costs them money, right? It costs them capital. And one of the possible way to do is that to engage with angel investor or a venture capital firm. And then what we do in a venture capital is that, by the way, you will have also a session with another representative from VC today, right? So just to help you more familiar with what VC do, our team in investment team, they do what is it called by portfolio analysis. So for example, if my company wants to invest in Modalku or in Kopi Kenangan, we will do assessment on how much. The first is whether do we have to invest them or not. So we will do validation on their business thesis. They provide us with forecast that their business will grow to A, B, C. They will be able to generate they will be able to grow consumer base in a 6 month, in a 12 months, but that's all forecast, right? So our job is to challenge them, is to make sure that they are on the right way of thinking. And finally, we'll decide whether we want to invest or not. And then, of course, it also followed by the decision or by the calculation on how much we have to invest on them based on the company valuation. So company valuation meaning that how much is all the value of the asset of the company, including the product, the team, and then the license and everything that can be valued in a company. So that's from VC, right? And if you are wondering why don't startup decide their own fund the business on their own using their own money, for example, why do they have to liaise with VC? Because if you imagine, right, for example, again, like how Kopi Kenangan, do you think they are profitable to generate that many branch? Definitely not yet, right? But they have the money from investor that enable them to do that a very aggressive branch expansion. But if we take a look on another example, let's say Kopi Tuku in Jakarta, they prefer to keep the company, the business as a family business, meaning that they want to ensure the first branch will be profitable until they can expand to the second branch. But at the end, it resulted to a different growth of business, right? But which one is better? We cannot say which one is better than the other because it's about preference. As an entrepreneur, it's about what they want to achieve, how aggressive they want about the growth is. If you want to be in stable mode, you want to be in aggressive mode, it's all preference, right? So that's how about fintech organization. And then a very last slide. So let's say you are now completing your study and you will soon applying for jobs. One thing to keep in mind is that securing job is about one step at a time. Oftentimes we think way too far about, oh, this is now a pandemic. Where can I get a job, or which company that are still hiring at the moment? And those all are just create panic for us, right? But thinking one step at a time, meaning that, okay, where I am now, what do I need to do first? So if I haven't applied any companies yet, and then my next step is to apply for companies, but it has to be targeted, it has to be reasonable. And then after I apply for a company, next step is to get my application getting responded. After getting my application get responded is about how I can prepare for the interview, not to miss the chance, but to ensure my success of the interview result, right? So that means that there are certain characteristics that we need to demonstrate during that interview session with the company. And then this is the summary of, as we have talked about how fintech business are, how dynamics they are, but also yet challenging at the same time because it's still a new industry. The business are shaped with multiple stakeholders, by government, by competition, by the consumer. And that means that analytical and critical thinking are very important. So meaning that our ability to identify why a certain problem happened, to identify the root cause, to identify the causal relationship between one and each other occurrence, right? And then soon after that is about problem solving skill. As I mentioned, that every day in a company is a new problem. You will be faced with many challenges, and it just takes us to keep our energy there to be able see the problem, because there are many ideas, there are many ways to solve problem, but to understand which way is the most effective that will bring us closer to our goal as a company, it takes us a problem solving skill, right? So in our daily case, back in the university day, it's maybe like it's just like building a thesis, right? Why do you need to research that topic? Maybe if that what our lecturer asked to us, and then why do you choose that respondent? Why do you choose that that level of respondent? Maybe 100 respondent or 50. That's all coming from a reason, right? And then once those make sense, is about achieving the goal, how we can make that happen. And then business acumen, as I mentioned, is about sense of business orientation. So everything that we do to solve our problem, it has to be back in our backhand, that it's not only about solving a short-term problem, but it's about a long-term impact for the company or for the business. Let's say maybe as a marketing, you have a very amazing idea. You want to make a marketing campaign, but it costs a very high budget. But then you cannot measure how that will bring impact on the company performance, how many traffic will be resulted, how many new user you will be able to acquire. And then they're just not a strong enough argument, right? So meaning that business acumen is having a measurable metrics for any solution that we propose, for any approach that we apply for our problem. And last but not least is a collaboration across function, because if we back again to the previous slide, they are consist with a lot of team, and let's say talking to data analysts, which doing data visualization, versus talking to a marketing or creative guy, versus talking to engineering team, which is a very technical guy. It requires us to apply different approach of communication, right? And that's the beauty of collaboration. If we are not able to deliver our message, if we are not able to make people understand on what we want them to do, on what we need to, or on what we need help from them, it will difficult to achieve the mutual goal, right? Because in a company, in a startup, in general, and even in fintech, we cannot stand alone. Whatever the part that we play, it always has something to do with the other function, and that just make the collaboration is very important. So that's all from my side. I hope that's not too much, that's not too little. And yeah, I think we can start with a Q&A session. For everyone who are keen to connect with me professionally, you can reach out to my LinkedIn, or who keen to connect with me personally. I'm also very happy to connect on my Instagram. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Clarissa Alvina Gunawan, for the materials. Before we start, mention one interesting sentence that I found from your presentation, that is, securing a job is a step at a time. So we need to take, it's not jumping, it's not direct or an instant process, but it's a step at a time.
Yeah.
So we need to take more patience in finding the first job. Okay. Now we got quite a lot of questions, Clarissa. So
Yeah.
I think we need to.
I'm sorry that I didn't realize I left only 10 minutes remain.
No, it's still until 10:40, I think.
Okay. So yeah, we have 10 minutes, right? Unless the committee doesn't mind to extend my duration.
Okay. Okay. Now, the first question is from Chaira Indonesia, from Universitas Indonesia. I see that most opportunities in fintech are for STEM, economics and communication, or psychology. Do you know any fintech company that offers position for fresh graduates of faculty of law? Because most of legal positions in fintech company are only for those with two or more years of experience. Thank you.
Yeah, can I just answer straight away? Yeah, so thank you for the question. Is it Safira? Sorry.
No.
Yeah.
Chaira. Oh yeah.
Chaira. Okay. Yeah, Chaira. Thank you for the question. So, if you ask me to mention like a straightforward of a company name, I'm sorry that I won't be able. Right? Why? Because the reason is every company require apply different requirements, and if I can explain the reason why, is that certain company with certain priority, they just don't have much luxury of time and resource to train fresh graduate, especially in this time of crisis. That's why most of the hiring priority now is to is I can say it's for what we call as a pro hire or for the experience, right? But of course, I do not want to discourage. I don't want this sounds like a discouraging statement, right? Because there are still companies that able to run the business, and in fact affected by COVID or by the pandemic in positive way. If we think about logistics, you can imagine how surge the demand is. If you think about e-commerce, how their transaction grow extremely, and about some health tech and education tech, right? So many activities of us is now affected by it requires us to change the way we are doing our daily activities, and that doesn't resonate all negatively to all companies, right? There are some types of company that still get the benefit from this. So if you heard about the retrenchment or the layoff that done by Grab earlier last June, I got the chance to spoke with one of the legal counsel of the company. So he joined Grab right after his graduation from Universitas Pajajaran, right? And he stayed there for 4 years before joined to Grab. He joined with Kudo because Kudo is eventually acquired by Grab, right? And then his role at the time is actually to helping on the due diligence because when Kudo are about to acquire by Grab as a company, you need to provide all the legality aspect, right, to make sure that your company are comply. So eventually, the party that want to acquire you are acquiring a healthy and a comply business. And when back then when Grab want to applying the license for Grab Pay, he was also in charge for that due diligence with Bank of Indonesia for the license application. So, but eventually they were not able to fulfill the requirements in a way that leads them to finally partner with OVO, right, to use their payment. But if we see in Singapore, Grab has their own payment, right, which is GrabPay. So he also shared me interesting story is that he back then he really wants to join a law firm, but when the opportunity was not there for him, so meaning that he already applied to many law firm, but he didn't get the chance. Lucky him, he got the opportunity at Grab. So by sharing this, I mean there are still in fact companies that welcome for fresh graduates, but of course what you can offer them in terms of your skill, in terms of your experience, maybe you have internship experience. I think that what will really set ourselves different from other applicants, right? Because we are not the only one applicant, and meaning that we have to offer something that make us stand out from the other candidates, and that's about our background is, which is experience and education, and yeah, all the skills that I mentioned. I hope it helped answering in a way.
Thank you, Ms. Clarissa. And then directly to the next question from Zafran and Sinta from Indonesia.
Yeah.
The first question is there anything that we should not do when we try to pursue a career as a fresh graduate, when we apply job, what we shouldn't do? And then the second question is there any specific skills that are required to pursue a career in fintech industry?
Okay, sorry. So the first question is what we better not.
Are there any specific skills that we need?
Specific skill.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So the first one, what, so do and don't, right? I think I have shared a lot about what do, but what don't is when I sit at the recruiter seat, it's so unfortunate to see a clueless candidate, meaning that you don't have a strong reasoning why you apply on this particular role. Yes, in fact, it's not always ideal, right? Meaning that we are not only applying for one company, but when we talk to recruiter from different companies, you need to have a different preparation, right? Which means that, let's say, it's just a pick for an example. Let's say in a company like OVO, what important is about your self-driving, your hunger to learn, and also your attitude. But maybe in other company, what important is the familiarity about fintech industry itself. So it's important for you to know, let's say, types of product in financial market. It's important for you to have some technical skill and some knowledge. So uh, that means that it really takes us as an applicant to understand what is important for each of those company that we will meet. And sometimes we cannot always find it in a job posting that they put there. I know it because in fact some of the HR are also not always, let's say, able to store the information there. But what I mean by having a strategic approach is that how we can find that important information with all the resources that we have. So for example, you take a look on LinkedIn, you know that you can search, let's say you applying for a product manager at OVO, you can type product manager OVO, and then LinkedIn will actually display you numbers of people that currently working as a product manager at OVO, and you can check their background. You can see which of them that join as a fresh grad. You can check on their academic background, where they are coming from, and you can have a sense why they are accepted in a company. At least it helps you to get one step more information, right? And then the other things, as I mentioned, if you know friends working there, or even already resigned but once working there, or maybe ever doing internship there, you can also ask information. So really think about how you can find information that eventually help yourself to get prepared instead of being clueless. You just mentioned like, oh, because I saw the company is interesting in the Instagram, in the social media, so I'm just thinking to apply. Oh, because I want to help people through this company. I'm not saying it's a wrong answer, but what we are looking is a strong answer. If 10 people saying the same answer, we will take a look on the strongest one, right? Yeah. And then second is about skills. We can categorize skills are two. So technical skills that require certain principles like engineering, it really needs you to have that academic education background, right, to be able having that skill. And the second is the soft skill, which is communication, problem solving, and then sales driving and whatever. So particular skill, I would say, again, I cannot mention one because every company requires different set skill of what they think will bring success to the business. That's the reason why every company set different manners, right? If let's say we are talking about, oh, having let's say having a proactiveness is good, but to what level is the importance of having proactiveness in one another company, that may be different. So again, it's always about researching your company, getting to know what's the important there. And sometimes even if you see it's not something that you can demonstrate, I mean, it's not something that close to your personality, do not force yourself to. Why? Because maybe you can secure the job at the time, but then you will have another struggle to get fit into the culture, right? Because that requirement for soft skill is set for a purpose, for a culture that they want to keep in a company. Yeah.
Thank you, Clarissa. I think we are running short of time, but
Yeah.
I received permission from the committee to ask 2 more questions. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Now, the first question from Nanda. She or he asked if it's possible. Is it possible for a fresh graduate to apply to a big company if they do not have any experience or like internship? Because maybe recruiter will think that some of these fresh graduate are a waste of their time because they do not have any experience. What is your suggestion?
Okay, yeah. So back again, I would love to invite everyone here to sit in the recruitment perspective, right? If you are having the authority to choose someone that will work in your company, of course you want to have the best one, right? Some talent that will bring immediate impact or contribution. But even you are a fresh grad, you have the chance, right? My question is that if in fact we have no experience at all, what are the prospective benefit that we want to offer or we can offer to our company, right? It doesn't always have to be professional experience like internship. It can be even a project that you help your lecturer conduct the research, you get a learning anyway, right? So it can be an informal part-time. Maybe you have your own business during university, or you do part-time activities is that it helps you to shape another skills and equip you unless you are very strong at academic, and that's alone are enough to convince the company to onboard you, right? So how possible is it? It depends on the case by case, on how everyone's situation is. If you are confident enough, you can really presenting yourself, you can really demonstrate who you are, you have a strong reasoning why you like the company, that's probably fine, right? But then if really you have nothing at all, and then applying to big company that have a very high competitiveness, do you think that's unfair for the other candidate that already prepare all their time and intentionally preparing themselves, having experiences during the uni days, right? So let's say although you already graduates with minimum experience, you can take some courses maybe before applying for jobs, or anything that can really add value to your professional profile. Yeah.
Lisa?
Mm-hmm. You're
Uh,
welcome, Nanda.
one last question. It's quite hard to choose from this many questions.
Don't worry, guys. As I mentioned, you can always connect with me through my LinkedIn or my Instagram, and I would love to continue the discussion separately.
Now, last question from
Yeah.
Aditya Yoga.
Mm-hmm.
What should we learn first from fintech for someone who doesn't even know
Mm-hmm.
what fintech is if we want to pursue a career in fintech?
Okay. I think your presence being here is already a good step because you enroll yourself. You are signing up in a summer course, which means that you allow yourself to access more information about fintech is. But it will, I think it will attract me to the fundamental question: is that how can you even interested pursuing career in an industry that you don't even know what the basic reasons of that interest, right? So if that makes sense, so I think I know that sometimes interest cannot always be explained in a logical manner, right? Because sometimes it's just our natural interest, having attraction or preference to certain industry compared to the other. But the time we need to communicate this about this interest, or the time we need to demonstrate this, it take us to have an acceptable answer, right? If we back again to our meeting with recruiter, and that's the time whereby we have to need a strong argument. What skill you need to learn first? I think I have covered it all. It's about what are of fintech business, and I think one of the actionable step for everyone here who consider to pursue the career in fintech is to define um, which type of this fintech organization that you are most interested to explore, and which role that align with your experience, with your academic background, and also uh, align with what you are most capable to do. Because sometimes interest is not enough, it has to be balanced equally with capability. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you very much, Clarissa. Uh, Before we close our session, I would like to remind the participants that our attendance list will be open soon. Will be open soon, okay? Not yet open, but will be open soon. So, well, okay, thank you, Clarissa, for joining session 2
Yeah. Okay. So
this
once
morning.
again, anything else? Or
No,
okay.
I would like
Okay.
you to summarize all your materials for the participants as a conclusion before we close this
Okay.
session.
Okay, yeah. So if I can summary the session today, I think what I share is mostly about what are the opportunities that available. But knowing that all is not enough, it's just the beginning. As I mentioned again, right? It's the process of securing job is really a self-driven process. But what each of you have to do, it really back to your current situation now. What do you see you need to develop the most, and what are the most the closest step that you can take from your current situation now. So yeah, I think that's all. Enjoy the rest of the session today, guys. Once again, thank you very much for all the committee that has facilitated the session. I'm personally really thankful to be here with everyone here, and I hope we can connect it again in the future in the next occasion. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you very much, Clarissa, for giving us insight today.
Thank you.
So after this, we will have a 20 minutes break, and then the next session will start at 11 p.m. And now, the most awaiting moment for all the participants. The attendance list is already open, so you can start filling the attendance list now. Okay, it will be open for 20 minutes and will be closed before the next session start. Okay, because we don't want anyone who do not attend this session to fill the attendance list. Okay. Thank you again for all the participants, for Clarissa Alvina Gunawan who has shared the insight, and enjoy your break. 11 a.m.